Hey guys, Emu Reviews here with another One Piece chapter discussion. This week we're discussing One Piece chapter 1034. So the official chapter release is not out yet, so you can be expecting another video from me this Sunday about the official chapter release where we can go a bit more in depth in terms of the dialogue and just to go more in depth in the chapter review. So this chapter, guys, Sanji versus Queen. Did it live up to expectations? Well, let's find out. Honestly, I have been seeing a lot of people comment about this fight, and a lot of people's thoughts are that this fight isn't over as yet. But I think that this fight has reached its conclusion. This is usually a common and noticed writing pattern for fights. You usually have a good guy versus a bad guy, and usually the good guy would struggle against the bad guy at first until the good guy uses a power-up that we've never seen before, or that we've never seen him train in before, and he uses this power-up to defeat the bad guy. And this has been the pattern for a lot of fights in One Piece, and that's just what we got in this chapter. I wouldn't be surprised though if Queen got up later and tries one last ditch effort, maybe to use, let's say, something like a chemical weapon or something in desperation against Sanji. But even if that happens, I think that this fight is already practically wrapped up, so Sanji may just one-shot Queen or something. But in terms of this fight prolonging for another full chapter or whatever, I think that this fight is just practically over. But getting a bit more in depth or in detail with this chapter, this week we were introduced to a new character. Not really a new character, but the name of that girl that was supposedly injured a few chapters back by Sanji. Her name is Osome, and we see that she is in the middle of all of the chaos that's happening and in Onigashima. And with all of this chaos that's going on, it seems that everyone is of the understanding that we got to leave now. We even get some dialogue with some individuals saying that with how things are going, getting off of Onigashima might not be enough. They might have to find a way to flee Wano itself. And it just brings us to the reality that Kaido is losing this battle. We see that his numbers are dwindling, and those who are still alive are trying to flee the country itself. And so I think even more of Kaido's subordinates will turn or flee once they find out that all of the Tobiropo and Calamities would have been defeated. So, and they would do so if they haven't done so already. But even if Kaido is winning, like, this battle is so crazy, we see that some of the fighters just want to leave. They just want to have nothing to do with what's going on here. So it's just too much chaos. But going back to Osome, we see that amidst all of this chaos, she's looking for a pet Chuji, which will inevitably lead her to Sanji versus Queen. So let's just jump ship a little and go to Sanji versus Queen and see what's happening there. So Queen in this chapter, man, Queen just shows us that he is almost capable of doing everything, literally. Queen in this chapter proceeds to use all of Vensmoke Judge's abilities, all of the abilities of Sanji's brothers against him in this chapter. He literally is shooting laser beams from his eyes and using electricity. All of the Vensmoke abilities he practically used. The only abilities I think person's ability I think he did not use was Reiju's ability, and who knows, we may get some of that later. But yeah, like, Queen is the whole package. He even says that he was pressuring Sanji to use his raid suit in order to beat him using the same technology. So I'm guessing it's the same techniques, but perhaps Queen's the version of them are enhanced in some way, or he thinks his version of them are better. So once he would have beaten Sanji in his raid suit, it would be known that his science would be considered far superior than Judge's science. But Sanji doesn't give a crap about his family. He do care about them, in a sense that if his family members are about to be killed or in trouble, he would save them or help them, as we saw in Whole Cake Island. But he doesn't want to have anything to do with them per se. So we see that there's a scene there where Queen is holding Sanji, or grabs Sanji with his metal claw, and he literally is sending him crashing throughout all of the structure within the room that they're in. And it really seems like, despite Sanji having that exoskeleton that we saw a few chapters ago, he is receiving some damage. So I guess, although he has exoskeleton, it can only do or protect him from so much. But Sanji goes on to kick Queen as he's holding him with this metal arm. Now he kicks Queen's in the arm, and the kick is so powerful that it breaks the mechanical arm off. And before Queen could even gather himself, we see Sanji uses another Diable Jambe kick. And the dialogue from the chapter, from Sanji here in this chapter, is just so confident. Sanji literally says, "You think I would just let you dominate this whole fight?" So it's like, just because you're using my family's abilities, you think I would let you dominate this whole fight? And against any other person, this would probably work. There's like a psychological effect that this could have on a person, that you're fighting this person and suddenly this person is using all of the abilities of your family and claiming that their version of that ability or those abilities are far superior or better. But with Sanji, as we mentioned before, Sanji doesn't have any emotional attachment to his family or his family's powers. Rather, we see that Sanji's family's power is the reason for all of his childhood sufferings and traumas that he would have went through in the past. So Queen played a good card. Against any other person, this would work, but Sanji was just not the one. Sanji even goes on to say that although Queen is still kicking and moving about, he must be tiring out now, since they both have been going at all out for some time now. So Sanji refers to that last kick he would have given Queen in a few chapters back, and he sent him flying, that he knows that kick must have started to do some damage. So it seems that Queen, despite how tough his zone ability makes him, going all out for a while against someone like Sanji, who has superhuman strength, would wear him down. And we see Queen goes on again and tries to use another trump card to get into Sanji's head, and this time by using his very own stealth black invisibility, to which Sanji proceeds to use his own super speed and goes invisible himself. And Queen's face is just so funny in the scene. Queen is definitely the funniest of all of Kaido's subordinates. Like, the moment Sanji decides to go invisible, Queen's eyeballs pops out of his head and he's like, "Nani? You can go invisible too?" Yeah, but Queen realizes that Sanji didn't in fact go invisible, but rather he is using super speed or super fast speed, so that he's moving so fast that with the naked eye you cannot see him. So now Sanji and Queen, they are both invisible now, and so the room that they're in seems to be empty. But we see that as soon as they disappear, Osome walks into the room, and we see right in front of her is Chuji. She's chasing after Chuji. But then we get some dialogue from Queen about Osome. And apparently, after Komurasaki's supposed death, she was the only geisha he loved or he cared about. But she kept rejecting him and making excuses and whatnot, so that she would not meet him or go to him. I think he even said that her excuse was she got a migraine. So Queen, realizing that she was just uninterested, earlier he went invisible using that same stealth black ability, and he injured her. Yes, Queen was the one who injured Osome. And so him seeing her in the room again, seeing that she is all right, even after he would have damaged her earlier. Because even before that, she was telling Queen that she had a migraine, but Queen had injured her, and he's seeing her again, and she seems to be all right. This pisses Queen off. So Queen then goes on to try to hit her again, because he's just upset at this point. So Sanji notices what's happening, and he realizes that he was not the one who had hit Asome earlier. And it actually was something that I said, in my chapter review of 1031, that if Oda doesn't really show Sanji hitting this girl, I'm not gonna believe it. Sanji stands by his morals that he would refuse to hit a woman even if it meant his death, and this is something that has been established day one from meeting Sanji. And so this notion of him randomly hitting a woman and that happening off screen as well had just made no sense to me. So I never played into thinking that Sanji hit Osome to begin with. Even if he lost consciousness, or if he was being controlled or if he had just become cold by that technology that he was receiving from using the raid suit, it still didn't add up, especially the fact that it happened off screen. But this chapter, we certainly got our answers. We got our answers about what really happened. But now we see that Sanji realizing that, hey, it was Queen. Queen was the one who hit Osome, and this really infuriates Sanji, because we saw that Sanji was going through some sort of mental crisis when he realized that or when he thought at least he had hit Osome. Even when he started to get the new abilities that originated with the Vent Smoke, he was not alright with that. But to go a step further, to hit a woman, Sanji would accept the fact that, okay, this technology is a part of him now, but the fact that he went against his high moral standards that he had kept, even if it meant his death, that really affected Sanji in a negative way. But now Sanji realizing that, wow, it was not me. I was not the one who hit this woman. It was Queen. You could imagine how furious Sanji is. Not even just the fact that it was Queen, or it wasn't him that hit Osome, but the fact that Queen is the one who hit Osome, and Osome is a woman at that. We know how Sanji feels about hitting women. So Sanji is very furious. So we get some dialogue with Sanji, whereas he's thinking to himself about all of the upgrades and the power-ups that he's gotten recently. He thinks of his exoskeleton, his enhanced strength, his super speed, and even his armaments haki. He's thinking to himself that combining all of these upgrades, at least with his exoskeleton and his armaments haki, will allow him to withstand even harder flames. So his flaming kicks will be upgraded from Diable Jambe now to Ifrit Jambe, and become even more powerful than his previous Diable Jambe. So we see that Sanji is sort of using a combination of all of that to increase the power behind his kicks. We even see in the shot there that as Sanji's leg is on fire, we see that even electricity is emitting from his kick, from his leg rather. And so this just goes to show the power up that he has received. And I think though the electricity is there to represent the speed that he has gotten as well, added onto the Diable Jambe. So now Sanji is super fast, he's super strong, and his kicks are even harder and more powerful now with superhuman strength and speed. So he even says to himself, that the speed behind his kicks would be on another level. And honestly, I can't wait for the official chapter release, so I could get more in depth in the dialogue because some of the things that are being said here are a bit unlike Oda, or if not using the word unlike, we could say are a bit different from Oda, because although Sanji is a fighter, of course, but rarely we get dialogue about power-ups and techniques from Sanji. You would usually normally expect that from Zoro or Luffy. You know, Zoro is a usually trains with the swords and working with different techniques, and Luffy, in terms of his gears, you get more technique dialogue from Luffy and Zoro. But you never really get anything from Sanji. Sanji is usually the guy that is super strong, but we don't ever see much shots with him training. The only shot we've ever seen with Sanji really training was obviously during the time skip when he went with Ivankov, but we never get any much dialogue with Sanji and training. So this is really different from Oda, and it's a nice change. It's fresh, it's different. So yeah, I really like that Oda is sort of exploring with different characters now in terms of power-ups and giving you dialogue about those power-ups. So, which is really nice. But Sanji, now, just another thought too. We see that Sanji, although he had lost his raid suit, it's practically like Sanji has retained or still have all of those things that he could do with the raid suit, even without the raid suit. You know, going invisible. Sanji has that speed. Sanji has that durability with the exoskeleton. Sanji has that. So it's like, although Sanji had destroyed the raid suit, it's like he still technically has it because he can go invisible using his super fast speed. You know, so I it's like Sanji just has a complete upgrade now. But back to the chapter. We see Sanji goes on to use a flurry of attacks against Queen. Like, it's happening so quick that Queen has no time to react. He has no time to say nothing. It's just that Queen is just taking damage after damage after damage after damage. And, you know, we can't wait to see this animated, right? And we see in the final panel, Sanji sends Queen flying again. Now, just think about it this way. Sanji was sending Queen flying with ease. With just his regular Diable Jambe. Now with this Ifrit Jambe, you could just imagine the power behind it, which is why I said earlier that I do think this fight is over, because it was already mentioned that Queen is starting to wear down, and he's taking a lot of damage. So I really don't see Queen getting up after this. And like I said, even if he does, it will be some sort of last-ditch effort to use some sort of poison weapon or chemical weapon against Sanji. But even if he does so, maybe Sanji will just one-shot him and put him down for good. But yeah, it's just the damage, the power up, the upgrades just seem to be on another level now. And even in previous chapter reviews, I've been saying that Sanji versus Queen feels different from Zoro versus King, because Sanji doesn't seem to be struggling as much as Zoro is struggling against King. And so Sanji wasn't struggling before, and now Sanji just got an upgrade. So this just shows you how much more damage Queen must be receiving from Sanji. But guys, that's my thoughts on the chapter. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. And if you want regular content like this on a weekly basis, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Imusama, out.